Somewhere in a desert, a group of archaeologists find a big dragon egg. As they dig through and confirm it, they message the Führer, their leader, that they found it. Elsewhere, an army tank contains 2 almost roasted soldiers because they have been traveling through the desert. They spot a vehicle in the distance. They pass on the message to some other soldiers who discover that they were tricked with decoys. The first commander informs the head office, but just then he spots some cloaked figures looking at them. Suddenly then, a shadow floats over them and they get flamed. The soldiers on the tank see the smoke and ask for some air support. The Air Force gets deployed after some banter, but then the front runners in the tank get flamed too, and this time we see a dragon. The Air Force is next as they approach the fields as well. They get attacked, but manage to scare the dragon with some guns. But just as they debate about the source of the attack, the whole squad gets obliterated. One escapes and manages to inform the headquarters that it's some sort of a flying creature whose wings are marked with the iron claw marks. Then, he also gets obliterated. Somewhere in a market, a group of drunk are playing a drinking and punching game. This is where we meet First Lieutenant John, who knocks a muscle man down in the game and gets the attention of 2 more soldiers who approach him to play, but he knocks them down with a blow to their wee-wee. Just then, an officer enters to take him to some official, one of whom praises him for all his medals and his bravery, but the other officer does not seem impressed to deploy John. They show them footage of the flying creatures captured during the fight earlier and want him to find a way to kill it. John, a lieutenant who has been given a desk job, gets an offer here to train a team to kill this creature in exchange for his wings. John is skeptical, but accepts on the condition that if he does this, it's not going to be their way. The officer does not care about the way, as all they want is results. He goes to the medic called Rachel, who patches him up, and they have a short convo about her deployment before they go along their merry ways. The next day, John meets his old buddy Lieutenant Jeff on the field. Just then, their reunion gets botched by a plane which flies right above them, which is flown by Drake. Seeing Drake makes Jeff nervous about the mission. Drake, with big teeth, tries to butter John to skip the training and just work off the notes, which John does not let him. Elsewhere in a Nazi office, we meet General Rommel, who teaches a young soldier about the importance of water and tells him to leave the letter that was on the wall sent by Britishers, telling the Germans to leave the country as he would deliver the letter himself to the Britishers while driving them out. They head out where a tank full of cloaked women enter the office. The general says to Dr. Gudrun that he does not have the troops to protect the women, but Gudrun replies that it is the women who will protect them instead. Back with John, his team members give their intros to each other, each being as snotty as the other. After all that, the 2 officers enter and show them a film they caught from a Nazi plane that landed on their fields, which shows Dr. Gudrun, the cloaked women, and the dragon along with the eggs they are breeding, which they are weaponizing, naming Skybound. The officer explains that the women are sorcerers who control the beasts, which seems really amusing to Drake, who ends up getting a good earful. Just then, the last member of the squad arrives. Back at the bar, Rachel enters with one of her friends where the squad is discussing their deployment. Just then, Drake spots Rachel and approaches her friend, who totally is starstruck and ready to tango. While all this goes on, we see casual racism in the bar where an officer is denied drinks but ends up getting it after John interferes. As they are drinking, the man from the earlier punch fight appears and they start their match again. In between, John gets punched right onto Rachel and gets a slap because his hand is on her honka. While the squad ignores the fight that is started and dips, Rachel smashes a bottle onto the man and saves John. In the midst of all this, the siren goes off, and as the squad runs back to the strip, suddenly, they all see the creatures. Although the leader, John, still has no wings, he sends others in the air to draw the creatures out and clear the area. As they try to pin the creatures, they don't show up on the radar, so John urges the squad to keep looking. Back on the ground, John asks the officer to hold the fire until his boys are out of sight, but all he gets is a 10-minute window. John makes his move by dividing his boys on the ground and air. As they course through the ground, one man gets obliterated, his wingman survives and leads the creature right onto the squad. As they are getting attacked, the ground orders them either they fight them there or lure them to the base and get baked along with them. The squad heads back while John is trying to save the squad. The officer does not listen and orders to fire at will. While the squad loses some, John orders Drake to save one who got 2 creatures onto him. Drake saves the pilot and takes the 2 creatures on a ride at 30,000 feet. While doing so, they find a weakness as the creatures can't match their climbing speed. He manages to blast one down, but ends up getting surrounded as his plane does not function. Drake dies while flying. The squad drinks in the morning and John goes to Rachel, pouring his heart out about not being able to fly with the men he lost. Rachel drinks with him as she tells him how her father died during the First War, as the front line did not have proper medics. She says she never knew her dad but feels the pain her dad might have felt. John says that's what a war is, and Rachel asks, is it? John goes on to tell his story of how he cleared a mission, and while returning he soared low spotting for targets and how he bombed a cluster of people with women and children and on his return was awarded. This made him guilty enough to ground down from leading a troop. They gave him a psychological evaluation leading him to this state of not being able to reinstate himself. Rachel kisses him, trying to console him. Elsewhere, Gudrun shows the officers the dragons which satisfy Rommel. Gudrun suggests Rommel that with Rommel's women who are chanting and training the creatures, they can control the dragons. Dr. Gudrun offers a demonstration and asks a soldier to run. The dragons chase the man, and Gudrun places the Rommel's hand on one of the women's temple, which scares him. Rommel tells them to stop it, which saves the poor soldier. After this, Gudrun takes Rommel to a shed where he explains that these creatures are made by chemists and don't need a male to reproduce, and all are female, each able to make an egg to replicate, hence even if just one survives, they can produce an army. Rommel asks about the male species, to which Gudrun explains they might have been bigger, and the offspring might have been something else in that case. Rommel asks what if a male is born from the eggs, to which Gudrun says he is going to kill it, as that might be a hazard to their control of the creatures. On the other hand, one of the women gives some water to the running soldier and puts something in his bag without him noticing. Back in the shed, Gudrun shows Rommel an incubator full of eggs. With tactics and his dragon army, they will be undefeatable, so he suggests moving towards the continent after acquiring North Africa. Hearing this, Rommel asks if the women can control such a vast army, to which Gudrun says under his command, yes. Somewhere in the desert, the squad travel to coordinates sent by Drake and finds the body of the creature. They learn that the neck is their weakness. While they think about a way to bring the body back to base, one of the members cuts a piece of the creature. Suddenly they get surrounded by Nazi soldiers. The squad gets captured and meets Rommel, where he tells them a story of how he found a priest who told him a legend that tells the story of the end. The legend says that in the end a male will be born Abu Zaka the Destroyer, and the men will not be able to control it. When Abu Zaka has come in the past, it has destroyed civilization. It is believed by the people. Rommel has consulted experts, but they believe it to be a myth, but Rommel believes the legend. So he needs someone to stop the birth of Abu Zaka, but he himself can't do so, as it would be treason to attack his countrymen, but he can still help the squad. He instructs them to destroy the adult one, and more importantly, destroy the eggs of every one of them. He tells them how they can be destroyed, and offers them the blueprint. The squad offer different ways, but Rommel shoots it all down, telling them about his pansy division. When asked about it being a trap, Rommel says that they can't be sure of it, but he can offer his word as a soldier. Saying so, Rommel hands them the blueprint and the squad leaves. Now the challenge of convincing his seniors lies on John. However, that does not seem difficult, as they agree in one go. They assign a soldier to crack the bunker, and John once again requests his reinstatement. John succeeds in getting reinstated, as this job requires the best man in the pilot seat. At the medic tent, the war 30 miles away, which sounds pretty close, brings the two girls out of the tent just in time for John's arrival to bid Rachel a farewell. They have a moment, kiss, and while an injured person plays background music for them, the squad deploys in the morning equipped for 2 bomb runs, 1 main and 1 backup. The squad descends while the group at the ground course through the desert. As they approach the target, the women and Gudrun are waiting for them. Gudrun sights the squad and deploys the creatures. John fans the squad out and prepares them for engagement. Gudrun witnesses the fight in the sky and sends his officer to call for backup, which gets captured by the men on the ground. Here we learn that one of the women who hid the blueprints in an officer's bag is helping the squad. In the air, while the squad fights good, they lose 1 member. John asks for ground confirmation but ends up aborting. But then the ground members open the vents and the squad drops the bombs. The women, however, make the creatures catch the bomb. John goes back for a second try. The group fans out and distracts the creatures and blasts them one by one. They lose 1 more member. While all this, they get attacked by a creature from above, and 1 more member is sacrificed in the attempt to kill it. The squad return for the backup run. Gudrun seems really happy at the sight of the squad losing. Back at the controls, the officer finally decides to use the weakness Drake sacrificed himself for, and asks John to climb hard and come down fast. John flies up with the squad and shoots down, killing the creatures, but ends up losing 1 more member. At the ground, the capturees try to run but end up getting murdered. Gudrun tries 1 more attempt and awakens Abu Zaka and ends up getting burnt. Seeing Abu Zaka, John asks Mark, the only man remaining, to do 2 things. 1, get the bomb on the target, and 2, find Rachel. Saying so, he courses to the Abu Zaka, flies the plane right into its mouth and jumps out. Mark successfully bombs the target and informs the control that John is down. The officers send out SAS in an attempt to find him. Somewhere in the desert, John faints and the ground officers and the women find him. Back at the medic tent, Rachel is writing a letter and hears John walk in. John greets her and they kiss long.